All right. Hello, 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 everyone. My name is Diamond Rivera, and this is the Live Discussions with Diamond podcast, bring you another special episode. And tonight, here, we have the man himself, all the way from the DC area, my man, Earl Rush.
Hey, Diamond, how you doing? Thank you for having me.
Man, this is a pleasure and honor. And for me, like I've told you before, a long time coming. And we're definitely going to get into your story, how they know you as the man Gogo, just your journey throughout the scene, just all the experiences you've been able to have throughout the years, things you love, things you don't. We'll get into that. But before anything, how have you been during this crazy 2020?
Well, actually, I've been doing pretty good, and it's funny. It's funny you asked me that. Before COVID, I had been dancing salsa 4 or 5 nights a week for 25 years. And I'm kind of like I asked God. I said, God, please help me stop this salsa addiction. Okay, I didn't know he was going to go this far, but it came along, and I have not gone out anywhere dancing since March 13th. It's also funny because on March 13th, I'm not superstitious. I said, nothing's going to be going on March 13th. And sure enough, that was the last time I was able to go out dancing.
Hey.
But I've been doing pretty good. I got in an accident, but I'm getting better, and I'm doing well. I don't have any complaints. I actually would love to go out dancing again, but I don't miss it as much as I thought I would. Mm-hmm. And I never have an inkling to go out dancing now. I'm not into that. I have underlying conditions, so I worry about my health. But I've been doing pretty good. I'm blessed, and I'm alive, and I'm feeling good right now.
That's amazing, man. And for me, talking to artists like yourself, I think it's something so special because being in this dance world for the amount of years I've always wanted that platform that really got to talk to the artists that I loved. And I've always wanted to learn how it all started because we see Earl Gogo Rush at these events being a promoter. He's on stage, he's emceeing at some points. And a lot of times there are certain people that just want to get to know who you are. So understanding that and seeing the humility in all of my guests, especially yourself, and the stories we're going to be talking about tonight, I definitely can't wait. But at least before we do get started, during the interview, we would be having live stream comments coming in directly. For example, all the way from the Philly area, my boy Rob Grisco here.
Yes, the man, Rob.
Yes, man. The legend himself, he talks about you, Earl, especially with those resolution jams that you have had for sure. And we're definitely gonna get on to an amazing start. So, Earl, for many people, we've known you as a promoter. We've known you as the organizer of some of DC's, but the salsa world's most amazing events, not just in the DC area. But I think it's also so important to understand the beginnings of how it all started. So I would definitely love to know, Earl, like take us back. Who is Earl Gogo Rush?
Well, to be honest with you, Diamond, I've been promoting events going on for 50 years. In the R&B and the black scene, I've been promoting ever since I was 16 years old. But I would assume that you want me to talk about how I got into Latin event production. I would assume.
Actually, to be honest with me, I think it's so much more important we understand, even before you got into the Latin events, understanding that different culture, that different crowd, that different atmosphere, that actually was the precursor to where you got to now.
Right. Well, when I was a little boy at 10 years old, I went to one of my neighbor's birthday parties. Her name was Brenda Hyman. And there were so many people at her birthday party, and we were having so much fun. And she knew a lot of pretty girls. Okay. And so I always wanted to say, one day I said, I always wanted to be that way. I always wanted to have a party and have a lot of people come. So when I became 16, by that time I had known a lot of people. I was pretty, I'm not going to say popular, but I knew a lot of people.
Yeah.
And I lived in a nice neighborhood. We had a big backyard. And I had a party. They had about 200 people in the backyard. And I was 16 years old, but I had, people coming from all different neighborhoods and things like that. And so I was pretty impressed with the turnout. And I said, you know what? I think I'm going to keep on having parties and things like that. And I had several mentors that were really big. One of them was Dennis Jarman. I call him Big Baller Shot Caller. He used to have a lot of big parties, and I learned from him. And I also was a sub promoter for the greatest events promoter in Washington, D.C. ever. There'll never be anyone bigger than this guy. His name was Mark Barnes. And Mark Barnes had thousands of people at his party. And he was one of my mentors. Even though I was older, I worked for him. So I learned a lot from him as well. And as time went on, I was always having parties. I used to have parties at the D.C. Convention Center and big places. I always had them in big, nice places. I never had a party at a raggedy venue. They were always very nice. And so it just transferred on to the Latin scene. I started promoting Latin events back in 2003.
Okay.
And the reason I got into that is because we had a crew. It was Kelvin Harris, Rick Greenfield, Tanya Vasquez, and Maribel Soto. And sometimes Sheila McNeil would go with us. We would go up to Philadelphia. At one point, I was going to Philadelphia every weekend. Every weekend. So I did that for 5 years. Okay. I was going on Friday, come home, and go back on Saturday.
Yeah.
And after a while, I'm like, damn, man, I'm spending a lot of money. I'm spending a lot of energy. I'm spending a lot of time. And so I said, maybe we can have something going on here in D.C. Maybe I can do something in D.C. so I won't have to be going up to Philadelphia all the time. Okay, so that's what made me get into having events here in D.C. And also my Latin dance mentor, Eileen Torres, she was the queen of salsa in D.C., and she was having amazing events at Zanzibar. And then again, I went back to my little boy thing, and I said, man, I want to have some events like this. And she taught me everything I know about Latin events, Latin dancing. She taught me everything I knew. She introduced me to the A-listers in the scene. She introduced me to all the musicians of the big bands. She taught me everything, and I made all my big-time connections through her. And eventually I got a chance to have an event along with her at Zanzibar. And it was like a dream for me. And I just went on from there, I just took it on from there.
Man, that's special. And even talking about your start in the scene as early as 2003 with the promoting and realizing from 2003 to where we are in 2020, we understand the dance scene has evolved immensely. Also realizing when you talked about, the presentation, like we see now, Earl, you're in a beautiful suit. And people also have to remember is that back in those days, it really was about presentation. It really was when you went out to a social. No, the social felt like a Congress. You had to have that presentation factor when you went out because, we realize now over the years, dress code and wardrobe as, on and off, but is the promoters like yourself and others that really keep that top of the line approach to their events, just kind of giving that professionalism and making people come in their best attire.
Yeah. Well, it's two things that ladies like, Diamond. They like guys that know how to dance, and they like guys that dress well. So it's not really complicated. Who don't want to be liked by the ladies?
Yeah.
So you have to be sharp when you go out, because even if you can't dance, if you look good, they might take a chance on dancing with you.
There you go. There you go.
That's how that was.
Yeah, man. So my question is, do you remember like the first salsa social that you were at? And I'm assuming this was in the DC area.
Yeah, I do. I do. My the first social that I went to, a guy named Piero, who was one of my first DJs at a Stuck on Salsa event. He used to have an event every Sunday up in Bethesda. But he had a Casino Reda group, but they also played regular music as well. And that was such a great party. I was so moved by the way that he was playing that music there. Then I said, you know what, maybe we can do something on a Sunday or something like that.
Mhm.
That's as far as socials. Okay.
Yeah.
My first big party when I went out was probably an event that Wendell Robinson had, maybe at a place called Diversity. And I was always fascinated by it because me being in the black scene, when we went out dancing, the first thing a lady would ask you, where do you work? What kind of car do you have? Where do you live? And to myself, I'm thinking, why do you need to know what kind of car I have? You're not going to drive. You're not gonna drive it. I'm asking, why is she worried about where I work? I'm cheap. I'm not giving you no money. And why do you need to know where I live? I don't really have a lot of people over my house. I'm not inviting you over my house. Just the things that I'm thinking to myself.
Mm-hmm.
So it was so refreshing for me to get into something where people didn't judge you.
Yeah.
By your race or things like that. It didn't matter. They just wanted to know whether you wanted to dance or not.
Mm.
Now, I first got into salsa because, I've always been crazy, but I'm 39 years old in a nightclub and girls are twerking on me. And, I'm like, Earl, you're 39 years old. You are just like Chris Rock said, you are the old man in the club. And I never wanted to be the old man in the club, but I ended up turning out being the old man in the club anyway. So I'm like, you need to move on with your life. Get over it. I'm in the club doing handstands, sliding across the floor, spinning on my back at 39. It just was not a good look. Okay. Mm-hmm. So the day I decided that I had to move on with my life, I was walking down the street downtown and I saw a sign that said free salsa classes with Ricardo.
Mm.
And Ricardo Lawaza, the Wapaman, and his wife Elba, they taught me my basics of dancing and they basically changed my whole life. Because from them, I got to meet people from all walks of life, from all over the world. The place was called Lucky Bar. Well, actually, back then it was called Planet Fred. Okay. And everybody would go down there on Monday night. That's what our place. That's where I met most of the people that I know today from down there. It was just a great experience.
Man, that's amazing. And something you touched on of you and me and you actually share that experience. Like myself, I am biracial. I am Hispanic, African American, and white. Okay. Yourself, the black man, realizing that, especially in a dance scene as the Latin dance scene or the salsa scene, many of us have had those questions about, and sometimes having people ask us questions of, like you said, the questions of who are you or where do you work, or sometimes those questions of what nationality are you, and it's kind of like I say, a microaggression, something that a lot of people of color have dealt with for a very long time. Like yourself, you talk to me about being a black man in a Latin-based industry.
Right.
I would love to understand that experience from you and what you've been able to learn over the years.
Well, as I talked to you earlier, a lot of people look at me and they say, what do you know about salsa dancing? Okay. Mm-hmm. And so when those who are unintelligent or not educated, I say the first thing you need to do is go learn your history because this rhythm is from Africa. Okay.
Yes.
I'm from, but I don't like to get in arguing with people and everything like that. But don't ask me how do I know how to dance salsa.
Hmm.
Because I'm black. That's an unintelligent question.
Absolutely.
But we go through. I went through a lot of things, and I still go through a lot of things today because the Latin population, they don't feel that someone who's not Latin should be involved in this scene. Okay, and which is crazy because we all know music is universal.
Yes.
So it doesn't matter what your heritage or your lineage is. Everybody loves music. Okay.
Oh,
So, and I've been pretty successful, but I'm sure if I was Latino, I would have been even more successful. Okay. I mean, the parties I have are off the chain, but they would be, you couldn't even explain them if I was a Latino. I believe that. I don't know for sure. I don't have proof of that, but that's the way I feel about it.
no, and I understand. I understand from that perspective because you lived through that experience.
Yes.
And realizing as a person who genuinely just loves music, but giving people an understanding of it shouldn't matter the color of my skin is why I'm dancing. I'm dancing because I love it. And for me, just talking to you about this means so much because I've also had those same questions thrown at me. And for me, I identify with everything of my cultures, but I think as well in the dance scene over the years, me and you have had to combat those questions. There's many people that hear that and brush it aside, but there comes a point when enough is enough. And realizing, like Earl, understanding too that you, Kelvin, and many others have been very integral on being one of the first event organizers to really host some of the most amazing events we've had in the last 10, 20 years. And realizing the impact, the influence you've been, it definitely can't go unsaid. And listening to your experience thus far of how you started is great. So when was that point that you said, hey, I want to start promoting officially? Because what you also said earlier touched on it was, and I see a lot of organizers say this, is when there's nothing really happening in your area and you're saying, hey, something needs to change, and it's people like yourself that make that change. So how was it? Do you remember what was the first event you threw in kind of the Latin dance world?
Yes, as I said, we had gotten tired of traveling up to Philadelphia every weekend. It became redundant. And we came back home, Kelvin and I said, Kelvin, we're going to start throwing events. And we're going to call it Stuck on Salsa. Because obviously I had a problem. I was stuck on salsa. So believe it or not, Diamond, our first event was right down the street from the White House. Okay. And I'm like, are you kidding me? It was a nice little Russian restaurant, and it lasted 4 weeks. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So of course, you know how dancers are, they're not drinking. But I blamed a lot of it on the Russian restaurant owner. He's trying to serve entrees and full dinners and everything. So Cheryl's not trying to do that. You need some finger food for them to eat. Or you need some drinks that are a reasonable price. So, I think nobody wants nothing from Russia or anything like that. Nobody's going out to dinner like that. Mm-hmm. So we failed for 4 months. We failed after 4 weeks. Mm-hmm. And we didn't do anything else until January of the next year. Okay. But we had so much fun the 4 weeks we were there. The next time we had a event, Kelvin had found a spot on 7th Street. It was behind the old Coco Locos. Okay. Mm-hmm. And we had a crazy party. The first time we had a party there, it was -5 degrees.
Ooh.
And there were over 300 people there.
Oh, so it was hot.
It was hot. And, we were rolling there for a while, okay? And so this is when I started to find out about having a party is not as easy as I might would think in the Latin industry, because we were rolling and we got thrown out because they found 7 different types of beers when they were cleaning up that the establishment didn't sell. Which means people were bringing in their own beer and all that. You know, you can't have that, you know.
Yeah. And it's crazy. It's like you said, Earl, and you touched on something very keen, was in the dance scene, there's always been the issue of we want nice spaces to dance at, but they also have to understand when you're dealing with another establishment, drinks are usually a mandatory. There's a set limit. You know, that's what helps the collaboration. We have the studio space or the dance floor space. You help the bar. So I think, too, you just said that it was amazing, was there were people not understanding when promoters are saying we can't have events if you guys don't support the bar.
Right.
Like, dancers don't drink. A lot of times they want to be sneaky and bring things on their own. Like my boy Roland here saying, people were bringing in their own drinks. They do that, even though I'm sarcastic.
Yeah. Look. See, now I'm gonna backtrack you. Mm-hmm. You said dancers don't drink. That's not true. Well, have an open bar, and you can't even get the line so far back. You can't even order a drink because it's crowded. So dancers drink. And I'm not going to call them cheap because I don't know people's economic status or situation. They may or may not have it. But what I will say is dancers tend to not spend their money on drinks in a club. I'm not going to tell them they cheap because I don't know. They may not can afford it. But I always see every time I've had open bars, the bar is packed.
Oh, yeah. And that's the thing is, the thing is that what I'm also saying is the biggest issue with promoters having events long term is not so much because, as you say, we can look at the bar and you see it's full, but to the bar, it's not full enough.
Right.
And that's something that has always been an issue with mainly bars that allow dance floor space for people. As the one issue I've always heard that it never really worked was, you know, there's nights you have a lot of people at the bar. Then you have those moments that people want to bring in drinks, and then it kind of hurts the relationship that you have with the set company. So, I mean, that right there, I can say, for me, over the years, when you're talking about congresses, when you're talking about socials, events, of course, drinks are going to be flowing. Totally understandable. But also, I think there has to be more support with events and the people in order to give the premiere.
Well, one thing about me, Diamond, one of my strengths is I realize there's 2 sides of everything.
Absolutely.
Okay, so, you know, when you're a salsero, and you have that addiction, you're going out minimum 4 nights a week.
Yeah.
Okay. You go out, you got to pay the cover. You buy 2 drinks, which drink now? What, 7 or 8? In New York, drinks are $10 a shot.
12, maybe.
Okay. But in DC, they're 7 or 8. You pay your cover, whether it's 5 or 10. Say the cover's 10. Mm-hmm. You got a drink, 2 drinks. That's $16. So now you're going out 4 or 5 days a week. That's $100 to $120 a week, or some drinks going out. You know, that ish adds up. So I got it. I understand that.
Absolutely.
You know, but the one that irks me are the ones that go into the bathroom and don't even attempt to buy a drink.
Oh God!
And drinking water out the faucet to the point where the owners of the venue are cutting off the cold water because they know people are drinking and say, well, if y'all want to drink, you got to drink hot water. You know, that's ridiculous. Yeah, and my thing is this. If you're going out, even if you don't drink, you're going to at least buy a lady a drink or two. I mean, any gentleman is going to buy somebody a drink. If you don't have it, you might probably need to stay home that night.
Yeah.
You know, don't come in and don't support the bar. But like I said, it adds up. You know, people don't have $120 a week to be spending on drinks. But when I go out, I would try. If I don't have a certain amount of money, I'm not going out. My mother told me when you go out, you got to have cab money. It's called mad money. You have to have money. Suppose something happens, you can't get home. You got to have money to catch a cab.
Yeah.
Get home, you might get hungry. You got to have money to get something to eat while you're out.
Yeah.
So if you don't have a certain amount of money, you should not be going out the house. But I can't tell people what to do with their money or what they want to do because there are hundreds of people who go out. I know people who go parties all the time and never spend any money.
Yeah.
You know, so what can you do? I can't put my hand in somebody's wallet and spend their money for them.
Absolutely. I mean, even the guy Edwin Soto here says, "I drink, my friends drink. I buy Earl margaritas." I don't know if that's special.
No. Edwin Soto, I mean, he's a very good dude. He supports the bar. He brings his brother. They spend about $100 a night when they come out. I got another couple of friends, Patricio and the Elite Rivera. Oh, they spend $100. I got some people who spend money, but the majority of people don't. Edward Sorton takes care of me. He's a good dude. Okay. You know, and some of them they compensate for the people who don't have money, but you know, they can't compensate for everyone, you know.
Yeah.
And so, because a lot of times in DC, we have these events where you don't have to pay to get in. Mm-hmm. They come in and they ain't thinking about buying no drink.
No, they're going straight to the dance floor.
Because people are self-centered and they only think about themselves. They don't care about whether that place opens because they can always go to another bar to get in for free and not spend any money. So no one's worried about whether the promoter can hold an event or not. They didn't have anything to do with that. If they don't have the money, they don't have the money. So I understand. But I have a couple of friends, like I said, they buy me drinks all the time. Some friends, they won't get out of my face until I accept the drink from them, you know. No, you can get this drink. I'm like, okay, because I'm not a big drinker because I like to do a lot of spins. So I have to have all my faculties with me. Plus, I talk a lot of trash. I never know who's going to walk up on me and try to punch me in the face or something. I might get in a fight because I talk a lot of smack. So I can't really be drunk, you know. So I'm not a big drinker.
I got you. So now kind of fast forwarding and realizing your work as well with Kelvin Harris. And that was you and Kelvin. I remember my first introduction. He was around, I believe, 2008, 2009. And you were doing your work in DC. You were doing the resolution jams. And I remember I was in a group called Eastside Edition. Guys, like it was an all-guy group. And I remember you reached out to us about coming to Mexico. And literally the story, even the backstory behind that, like when me and the guys found that out, we were like on cloud 9, but we literally like grassrooted fundraised for a few months just to come there.
Right.
Literally like one of the most amazing times I had because, you know, for you and Kelvin to trust us and say, hey, we're bringing you to this event and you're actually one of the headliners. And it was shocking because we were men, we were boys amongst men.
Right.
Even though we knew a lot of these dancers because me and these guys were dancing 5-8 years prior. Right. So we were young kids growing up. So having that opportunity, that was something I always wanted to let you know. And I thanked you so much because that event specifically opened up my eyes to the endless possibilities that this community could bring. Because when we talked also, realizing with your events, even before this was the All-Star Weekend 2009 in Cancun, Mexico. I remember when Mario B was there. You had, I believe, you had Caribbean Soul. You had people from New Orleans, and this is also where I originally met Ataka y La Hermana.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
that was a great story that we talked about for sure.
yeah, yeah. That I believe that was the. Well, I'm not gonna say their first appearance, but that was their first traveling experience for sure. And the funny thing is, they had a off the clave mambo routine. It wasn't the bachata they were on. I mean, Jorge and La Alabama were off the chain down there.
Yeah.
You know, and that's one of my favorite routines for them. I'm not even talking about bachata, but
Yeah.
we had a great time, and you know, it was an experience. I was fortunate enough to work with Kelvin because Kelvin, he along with Lee, Kelvin always thought big. He always thought big. Okay. And because of Kelvin is why everybody around the world knows Stuck on Salsa, because Kelvin is the one who put the All-Star Salsa Cruise together.
Yes.
And when we had that cruise, no one had heard of anything like several hundred salseros having a party on a cruise boat, you know. Now, obviously, Aventura Cruise has taken it to another level. They have thousands. It's a beautiful event. But we were the first ones who started that trend of having the salsa cruises. And it was amazing how all the talent that we had, and a lot of them were divas and divos, but they all seemed to let their ego at the door on that cruise. Everybody was so friendly. It was just an amazing time, you know.
No, absolutely. And when you talk about the All-Star Salsa Cruise, I believe it was in 06. Am I correct?
The first one was in 05. 05.
But realizing, because around at that time I was maybe 14, 15, but with the late Dave Melendez, when I trained in his school, he would talk about this and realizing, like, even here I have Roland talking about Earl, Kelvin, and Stuck on Salsa have been the launch of a lot of events, of acts. And that goes to show, especially from you having that initial cruise, that right there was the inspiration to saying, if we can get 700 people on this boat, just imagine years later and other promoters and organizers putting their brains together and collaborating. And now, like you said, creating events like Aventura Dance Cruise that host thousands and travel to different cities and countries. But realizing, Earl, is that we're stuck on salsa with what you and Kelvin were able to create from early 2000s coming into the 2010s and kind of just bulldozing things through. Because I still remember, I mean, we also have to remember this was the beginnings of social media. And I think we also remember before your flyer was on Facebook, you had to print flyers out. You had to go to New York, to New Jersey, to Philly to promote your events. You had people who would go to events for you just to promote your next Congress, your next weekender. So, I mean, I think especially us, I wouldn't even just say my generation, but mainly also the newer generation are very lucky of the resources, because people like yourself and Kelvin and others, the amount of promotion and the stories I hear about, like, just what you guys have done to create such a staple of Stuck on Salsa. I mean, when I'm in New York and people are talking about going to DC for that event, I'm like, this event has to be amazing. People going all the way from New York to DC, then to say I'm going to come back because I got work the next day. Oh man, but a question I have is, what are some of your fondest memories from doing these Stuck on Salsa events?
Well, one of my fondest memories was us doing the first Resolution Jam. Okay, I spoke earlier about Zanzibar, which was the #1 party in Washington, D.C. But that took place on a Wednesday night. And so Zanzibar, you know, again, the stereotype Latinos, Latin crowds are not going to drink.
Yeah.
Zanzibar never had any events except Latin events except for on Wednesday. But they let us have a party there. It was on a Sunday night for the Resolution Jam. And there were about 500 people from across the country at that event. And I was just amazed. I had DJ Jose Rodriguez, my main man from Philadelphia, and I had DJ Andy, okay? Two phenomenal DJs. And I think they set the standard for what the music was going to be like at a Stuck on Salsa party. I owe them so much. I always talk about them because that party was crazy. And as a matter of fact, at midnight, 5 minutes before midnight, we had a Jack and Jill contest.
Oh, man, I remember those type of contests.
And we had Shawnee was in it. Ismael Otero was in it. Shaka Brown. A lot of the hot dancers from D.C. were in it. It was Ramon Orlando Machuca was in it. It was crazy. That was one of my fondest memories because I'm like, I really wanted to cry. I'm like, all these people from Philadelphia, Big George was there. People from Philadelphia, Beto Herrera from North Carolina, you know, people from Atlanta from there. All across the East Coast and the South were there. And it was just amazing. And we took off from there. And ever since we've had big events, we've had no less than 400 people at our events for the last 18 years. That's been the average. At least 400. That's the minimum. Every time we had the Resolution Jam. So I'm kind of sad this year that we're not going to be able to have it this year because of the vid. But of course I'm sad because I'm not going to be able to make that money. But just sentimental, I'm kind of sad that we're not going to be able to have it. We're going to have a virtual event. Mm-hmm. I got Philly Boy on 2 and Mambo Soul. They're working on the situation right now. So we're going to be doing some things over online. But the thing about the Resolution Jam, it's not about online. It's about you having to be there to feel the energy and to see all the people from across the country and the vibe. So it's not going to be the same. And that's why I always say the Resolution Jam will never be televised because you have to be there to see it.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And another one of our great events was the first All-Star Salsa Cruise. And how that got started, one day Kelvin came up to me and said, Earl, we're going to do a salsa cruise. And I'm like, okay. You know, because one thing about Kelvin, whatever he always did things with class. We used to have parties on his rooftop when he was living downtown. He had a swanky apartment and they had a rooftop, and we used to have parties over there. And everything Kelvin does was always with class, first class. So if he tells me we're going to throw a cruise, I said, okay.
Yeah.
You know, and it was history. 2005. I mean, we don't even have the time to name all the all-stars that Kelvin brought to that cruise. And we all remember it, and fantastic performances. And we all partied. That was one of my two most memorable events: the All-Star Salsa Cruise 2005 and the first Resolution Jam.
And even Tanya Smith here writes, the cruise was the freaking shiznit. Cemented my addiction to the salsero lifestyle. Earl is the man.
Oh wow!
Realizing from up top here, we also have Irene Holtzman.
Woo! Oh.
About that Mexico trip was epic. Kelvin and Earl were the first to do a destination event like that, and it was everything. And realizing as we talk, Earl, this is 11 years later.
Right.
Memories still will never die.
Well, tell Irene and Tanya thank you so much, because they are major players in the game, and I'm honored that they would even tune in, because they both know me very well, but I'm excited they came on.
Absolutely. Even Beto here, and Alberto Herrera, out of the way of North Carolina, saying that cruise was the bomb. I don't think I slept the whole time. And it's memories like that that honestly last a lifetime. And now that helps me transition to a segment that I have called the randoms, which is 10 questions. You have about 5 to 10 seconds each to answer each question. But overall, it helps myself and the audience get to know you a little bit better, but at a faster rate. So let me know when.
Before you go into that, can I interrupt you just one time?
Absolutely.
You were speaking of Beto Herrera. He had an event down at the Montage, I think it was called Montage Lounge. He had Victor Berjou, and he had Anna and Joel. And Beto is the one that made me want to step up my game because that event was out of control. And I said, and I think, this dude down in North Carolina can have something like that. I said, I need to step up my game because we didn't bring people at the first time. We just had, our DJs were so awesome. We didn't need no performances. But Beto was one of my inspirations of stepping up my game for sure. I'm sorry to interrupt your flow.
No, not at all. I've known Beto for quite some time, and just realizing artists that the similarities and the connections we have with one another, and still years after year, just realizing that events that you've been able to create bring people together.
Okay,
absolutely, definitely. No, and even Beto says, "Thanks, bro. The live is mutual." So now this part should definitely be fun. So definitely let me know when you are ready.
I'm ready.
All right. First question is, what is your favorite food?
Macaroni and cheese.
Okay. Oh, wait. Let me get a 1A into that. How do you prep? What cheeses do you use in your mac and cheese?
Well, I usually try to put at least 4 different cheeses in there.
Oh, all right there. I don't know. I like that. I don't want you to give away the secret, but at least we know you're a 4 cheese guy.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Second question is, second question would be, how did you get the name Gogo?
Well, Gogo, as you know, is a sound that was created and originated in Washington, D.C. And just like I would go out dancing salsa 4 or 5 times a week, I was always at the Gogo. And I used to always go see Chuck Brown. So the guys in the neighborhood knew I was with the Gogo, so they would say, hey. They just started calling me Gogo Earl, And sometimes Chuck would see it and he would say, yeah, Gogo Earl's in the house. And so when Chuck would call out somebody at the Gogo, that means, you were pretty special, So basically got the name from the guys in the neighborhood.
Okay, awesome. Next question is, besides your events, what is one of your favorite congresses that you've ever been to?
That's no hesitation. The Puerto Rican Congress, I don't know what year was it. Maybe it was 2002 or 2003 when they were at the El Caribe Hotel. That was my most famous event. That one and 2008, the New York Salsa Congress. Because I don't know how I worked this one out, but Choco actually had me teaching. And so with that teaching credit, you could not tell me a thing. When I could come home and say, yeah, I taught at the New York Salsa Congress, shorty. It was, because the New York Salsa Congress, it's the Mecca. It's the Mecca. And it was like 200 people in the class, and I'm like, whoa. I had my friend Janice Soro Salsa teach with me, and I was like, ever since that New York Salsa Congress, it gave me confidence and everything. I know I appear to be cocky, but I'm not really that way. But it gave me a lot of confidence to say that you taught at the New York Salsa Congress. Yeah. There are thousands of people who wish that they could say that. And that day, that was the day that I met Corwin from Utah, and my man Stephen Green was one of the DJs. Mm. Plus, I had got Choco to let my man DJ Neo play there, and Jose Rodriguez and DJ Andy were playing there. So you had 3 DJs that played and stuck on salsa events at the New York Salsa Congress. And it was like, I was like in clave heaven. Now, I'll never forget that 2008 New York Salsa Congress, and I'll never forget the one, I think it was 2002 or maybe 2003, the El Caribe in Puerto Rico. Those were my 2 famous congresses.
Awesome.
And I'm sorry, one more. The first DC Salsa Congress.
Okay.
That was out of control. Shaka was working with David Melendez, and it was crazy. My favorite band, Edwin Ortiz y La Mafia La Rama, Cole played there that night, and Edwin let me get on stage. I got on stage and was acting a fool and sliding all across the floor. That DC Salsa Congress, the first one, that was also one of my favorite ones for sure. Those 3 are the top 3 for sure.
Okay. Next one would be, what did you want to be at 10 years old?
To be honest with you, I didn't really have any aspirations at 10 years old. When I'd say about 13 or 14, I always wanted to be a dancer on Broadway. When I was 13 or 14, that was my aspiration. But at 10, I really didn't have any aspirations.
Okay. So next question. This is definitely helpful for organizers, promoters, what name you. What is, as you as a promoter, what is a really big turnoff for you coming from an artist? What is something that, what artists can learn to do or what not to do in order to kind of book an event? Well,
I have a couple of pet peeves about artists, so we'll go into them. Yeah. I pretty much know all the dancers that are out there who is hot, so I won't make that mistake. I made it once, but I doubt if I'll ever make that mistake. The thing is, I had the honor of discussing with Salsa Cruise last week about how some dancers don't want to dance or they're tired of everything. But the first thing is, if you come to my event, you have to salsa dance, or I will never bring you back again. Because my crowd comes because they want to touch those people. They want to dance with these people, And so I've been lucky because I know the personnel that I'm bringing. I have made a mistake or 2, though, and it left a bad taste in my mouth. And I'm like, these guys come down here from wherever they came from. I'm not going to say no state or town. I'm not going to list no names. I'm not trying to call anybody out. But they would stay in the corner and just dance with their people who were in their group. And I'm like, what the heck is going on here? I never said anything to them, but I never brought them back again. Another one of my pet peeves with artists, and I don't understand to this day, I don't understand it. You're bringing an artist, they don't want to promote that they're going to be at a place.
Yeah.
I don't understand. Just like today, we're not competitors, but you and I have same format with interviews. Okay. I promoted that I'm going to be on your show. It's not a problem. What's the problem? It's going to help. It's going to help me, and it's going to help you.
Yeah.
But these dancers, again, back to people being self-centered.
Yeah.
They only care about themselves. That's not my job. My job is to come do the performance. You're not paying me to promote. And it just leaves a bad taste in my mouth. But I talk to Tanya Smith about this all the time. We already know that the artists are not going to promote. And so Tanya says, Earl, you already know they're not going to promote. Why are you calling me every day talking about nobody's promote? It just leaves a bad taste with me. If someone's bringing me somewhere, I'm going to tell the world, hey, I'm going to be at this place. I'm already going to get paid for being there teaching. I'm not being greedy. Talking about you got to pay me to promote too. That's some, excuse my language. I don't know whether you have cursing on your show or not. I'm
It's
sorry.
fine. You could be totally honest.
That's some fucking bullshit. That's bullshit. That's not my job. You ain't paying me to do that. So I realize that artists are not going to promote when they're going to be somewhere, even though it only help them.
Mm-hmm.
It's just something that I got to get over. But to be honest with you, the last couple of times I've had a couple of events where I don't even bring any artists. You know why? Because I'm not going through the bullshit. You don't want to promote. And then some of these artists get spoiled. Mm-hmm. They go over to Europe and whatever, and you know they get this bottled water and all this. I was on a cruise one time, and this lady came up to me and said, Earl, there's no bottled water. I mean, you know how much bottled water costs for me for you artists? The goddamn water fountain's right down there. You know, so they get spoiled, they get treated a certain way, and they expect everybody else to treat them that way. I mean, I try to treat them with class, put them in nice hotels and stuff, but you know, some of the fringes they want are they're out of control. Yeah. But maybe because I'm not Big Willie and I'm not a big baller, I can't understand because I'm always running on the tight budget. So
definitely understand. Next question would be, who is one of your favorite follows to ever dance with? Like if you could have one person here you'd able to dance with, who would that person be?
To be honest with you, and not because she was on the show, mm-hmm. Irene Holtzman has always been one of my favorite followers. She's a light follower. Yeah. And she just follows anything that I dance with her. She's one of my favorite followers. I have several, but I can't name all of them because we've been past the show time. But off the top of my head, I would say her. And I have danced with any star, any female star that has been a hot star in the last 10 years in this country, I have danced with. Mm-hmm. So I have several that I can name, but I would say locally it would be Irene Holtzman.
Okay. Next question would be, as an organizer, as an event owner, what is one moment that you could tell us, like a spontaneous moment that happened maybe to a performer on stage, like a really funny moment, something that just like happened out of nowhere that you really couldn't explain?
Well, I don't know. I had talked to George Dennis. One of the things he said that this happened in Mexico, so maybe you were there. You know, George is tall and he's a big, strong young man, and he threw his partner up in the air. And I thought for sure she was going to bang her head on the top of the ceiling. I'm like, oh my God! I shook my head. I said, oh no! So that would probably be the most spontaneous, because I thought she might have been killed or something. She had hit her head on that ceiling. Oh, so that would probably be the most thing that I would remember.
Okay. Yeah, no, I definitely understand what you're talking about, because we as spectators, when we're seeing a performance, and once that female is lifted, we're praying that she gets picked up at the right moment. Because I have seen shows where the guy has threw her in the air and dropped her on her back.
Oh my God.
I'm glad that wasn't happening. Next question would be, if you could have any, what would be your superpower?
I don't think I can give you an answer on that one. I don't know. I don't know. I mean, you know, I guess the obvious would be to be able to make money.
All right.
To print money. But other than that, I don't know.
Okay. No worries. Next question is 3 people that are most influential to you at this point in your life.
As far as the promotion or just...
No, in life. Just in life.
Eileen Torres is one of the most influential people in my life. See, there again, we're going into the personal thing, whereas my private life is my private life. I have a
Oh,
couple,
okay, okay.
I have
All
a
right.
couple of people in my private life that are very influential to me.
Oh, well, if we
Okay.
don't go there, how about just in the dance world?
The dance world, I would say Eileen Torres, Kelvin Harris, and Lee Elvingito in Lagata.
Okay. Nice. I definitely have met each and every one of those people, and I definitely agree with Kelvin and especially Lee and Irene. That's amazing to hear. Because especially, I would say too, Earl, what I love is about you is that you're very inclusive. You're not a selfish promoter. You're not one person that's just fixated on you. And I love that you can even talk about other artists and other organizers that actually inspire you and are influential to you.
Yeah, yeah.
You know,
Well, the thing is, Diamond, it's not about me. It's about the music.
absolutely.
To be honest with you,
Mhm.
I am shocked at how successful my events have been because
Yeah.
I really don't think a lot of people are. I'm not. A lot of people are not really a fan of me.
Mhm.
I have a lot of people who come to my events that can't stand me, but they know the music is going to be
Yeah.
slamming. They got to come anyway.
I like that. I mean, and I love the honest truth about it. And
Yeah.
we'll definitely get into that. The last two questions I have: what is a special talent that many people wouldn't know you have?
Well, I'm an excellent cook, and back in the day when I was bowling, I was averaging about 185 as a bowler.
Mm.
But I'm an excellent cook. A lot of people they don't have any idea about that. Okay, so
I like that. I like that. And the last question I have would be: in terms of your cooking, what's a dish that you could just whip up with almost your eyes closed?
well, oh, I don't eat that type of food anymore, but I make the best fried chicken you ever
Oh man, I don't know. That could be controversial. I like that though.
cooked.
All
Yeah.
right. I love it. I love it. And the next one, oh, actually, that actually finishes our segment, actually. So I thank you, Earl, for doing this. It really was fun as well. And I'm definitely going to hold you to that fried chicken. I hope. And we have here as well Mr. Jimmy Rumba saying, I am your number one fan.
Oh wow.
And it's amazing as well. Before we even transition, we have Tanya here saying, "Yeah, I agree with Earl. There are some artists I would never bring back to DC because of only socializing with themselves or the clicky people and not lend themselves to being open to dancing with other people at the party. No bueno."
Mm, yeah.
You know,
Crazy.
it's true, and I love that to hear your honesty because people who maybe want to be promoters in the future, these are things to look at, and hearing your story, hearing your concerns, hearing what's on your mind, I think is really important and is going to help the new generation of promoters that want to come out. So
Yeah.
now this helps me transition into the present day and realizing with COVID how it's affected many of us as well. But realizing that people like myself and you have been able to create platforms that we can be able to speak to artists and bring some type of love, positivity, and unity within our community. And a question before I really get to that is from going back to 2003 all the way to 2020, what have been really the main changes that you have seen within the dance scene from back then until now?
Well, the quality of the dance, of the social dances, has definitely gone down,
Mm.
in my opinion.
Yeah.
Because like when we were coming up, we would go to 4, 5, 6 congresses across the country. We'd go to Puerto Rico Congress, New York Congress. We would go take workshops, and everybody was into taking classes.
Yeah.
And it's like nowadays, people they may not be able to afford it. I don't know the situation. It doesn't seem like a lot of people are that interested in taking classes that much. Or if they are taking classes, maybe their instructors are not good. But I tell you, it has gone down a lot. I don't want to be. I think I'm being a bit harsh. It has gone down the quality of the dance, the social dancing.
Right.
And I also noticed when we were coming up, the performers, they were very good social dancers. And
Yeah.
I see some of these performers out here, you get them on the social floor, you can't even dance with them. You know, they just remember the routines that they've been going over and over again, and they're not good social dancers. That's one of the things that I've noticed a change in the scene.
Man. And the way you say that, it hits home for me because that is a sentiment that I've had for so many years was we got so many new companies and new performers, but I agree the social dance setting has really diminished with many people, like you say, the clicky groups. When you as an organizer, and I think many organizers should take this as we want to have artists that are going to interact with the people because like you said, they want to be able to know that they can kind of touch these artists, feel some type of connection. You don't want an artist to come to your event, literally just be there for the performance and leave. I think that's a really big turnoff because it really shows they could care less about the event. It's just more about their bottom line.
Yeah, well, exactly. So it's that's one thing I say about Shaka. He seems to have a strength of bringing everybody that he brings. They're all up in the front of the stage. They sit down in the front of the stage and they party all night long with everybody. That's what makes the DC Salsa Congress one of the favorites of everybody because it's like family. You know what I'm saying? Because
Absolutely.
I remember I used to go to the New York Salsa Congress, and I would ask a lady to dance. They didn't know who I was, but they would look me up and down and like, oh, they were asking this, do you know how to dance? I'm like, what kind of question is that? What kind of question is that? And then they would see me dance, and I would see the look on their face, and they would be looking over their little girlfriends on the side who they were probably clowning me with. And say, oh, this old man can dance, So you never know who can dance until you dance with them. But
yeah,
I don't like the standoffish attitudes of dancers at these events nowadays. But you always want to get it. That's a part of dance scene, whether it be bachata, West Coast swings, whatever, hand dancing. That's part of dancing. Everybody has a click, and nobody really wants to dance with beginners who don't know what they're doing. Okay, because I think we're dancers. We all have big egos. Who wants to dance with somebody that know what they're doing? You spent $10 to go into a club, and you want to dance with somebody who don't know. When you ask them, do they dance on two? They say, yeah, 2 feet. To be real. Yeah. If you're not a promoter, I understand that view because before I was a promoter, I was a big time dance snob. Yeah. And even today, if I go out of town and I'm not promoting an event, I'm going to scout you out to see that you can dance before I dance with you because let's not kid ourselves. We're going out to have fun.
Yeah.
You're not trying to go somewhere who wants to struggle. I dance with nothing but beginners because I am a promoter and I want people to come to my events. Okay. Yeah. So I get over that ego thing. Plus, I like meeting people. Mm-hmm. And that's the only way. When I go out now, I don't even dance with anybody I know. I'm only looking for people who don't know how to dance. But in general, if you're not a promoter and you've been spending all this money on dance classes and all this, you're not trying to go out and dance with nobody who don't know how to dance. It's not fun. It's not fun. It's not fun. So I understand it.
I definitely understand it, but at least now we understand through COVID and seeing how it's really affected our dance community a lot. I appreciate that we have people like yourself that have been able to have their own platforms, whether it be straight up talk, whether it be real fellas talk sports, you having a platform and collaborating and connecting people together, I think is amazing. Whether it be through sports, whether it be through dancing, whether it just be through life topics. And
Right.
having people, and I can honestly, I love is seeing your work, talking with other artists, and them being able to reminisce about the times that they miss. Because
Right.
again, what COVID has shown us is that we can't take for granted the stuff that we used to have
Right.
because people were so used to an event every week. And for literally 8 to 9 months, you
Right.
had nothing. And
Yeah.
just realizing that with our scene, understanding that different cities are trying to acclimate. Unfortunately, there are no longer some schools that we had around are no longer around, while others have been able to pick it back up slowly. And for me, I think honestly, it's been great that I've been able to have you on because I feel like I know a lot more about Earl, the human being, rather than just Earl, the promoter. And I think it's most important because we love what you do on the stage, on a flyer, but I think it's so much more important to understand the man beyond the promotion.
Well, thank you, Diamond. I actually think you're one of the people who might be interested, but I appreciate you for having me on. You know, it's good. It's good because there might be some new people who are watching, and they may find out who I am and what I've done. A lot of times, for example, I would go to Tanya's Mr. Mambo social, and she would say, "We have Earl Rush in the house," and it'd be silent. You know, the young kids, they'd be like, "Who's this old man?" Or or who? I hear a lot of who in the audience.
Yeah.
And let's not kid ourselves. Of course, I have a huge ego, and it hurts when you go somewhere and someone announces your name, and they be looking at you like, "Who is this old man?" Or nobody knows who you are or anything. So it's good that you have me on. Maybe some people found out about the things that Kelvin and I have done. So I appreciate it.
No, absolutely. And then for me, it's like even me as a younger male, I grew up in the scene and I had a person like David Melendez that told me, seek out that knowledge. If this is something you want to do long term, you need to learn who are the heavy hitters in every city. You need to learn who are the people who are giving platforms, giving events that the community can be a part of. So for me, it was always about, hey, I love being a performer, but I would love to know who the artists or the organizers are that allow me to go to their events because
Right.
I want to pick their brain. But I also
Right.
want to celebrate your success because, like you said, Earl, there may be people that don't know who you are, but a person like myself that has grown up in the scene over 24 plus years now, I have to celebrate a person like you because I've seen what you've been able to create, but I've also seen the influence you've given to the new generation of organizers if they want to admit it or not.
Right.
No matter what, it doesn't have to be everyone, but we as a community, the people who have been here longer, been in events, because many of dancers now haven't been dancing since 2010 or 2009. They
Right.
don't know what we were able to have, but
Right.
also now we take for granted what we once had, but realizing our dance scene evolves like life evolves.
Yes. Yes.
Realizing that, everything just moves forward. You always got to reinvent and rebrand yourself. And for me,
Right.
like I said from the beginning of the interview, this was my chance to celebrate all of the success that you've had thus far because I know there's still more to come. You know,
Yeah.
and before we do then go, I would love if you had, for myself and the audience, any last few words to part with us.
Well, I would say that for me, one of the reasons why I've been successful is because I got to know a lot of people. So I would tell them to try to meet as many people as you possibly can. Now, I've been blessed and fortunate to be able to work with people like Kelvin Harris and Lee El Genguito and Lagata. So it's kind of like, I mean, I do my part, but it was kind of like being in the right place at the right time, or working with the right people, So you got to be careful who you work with, and you got to meet people. And I would like to give an advice to people who are having events. A quick little tip. If you're going to bring someone from out of town or you're going to bring a big star, if the person you're bringing is not going to bring enough people to cover that, don't bring them. For example, I usually have 400 people at my party. Okay. I know I'm going to get 400 people. If I just have Jose Rodriguez, DJ Mambo Soul, DJ Hercules, we've been fortunate enough to have some great DJs in DC. I know I'm going to get 400 people, regardless.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if I'm going to bring, if someone is going to charge me $1,500 to come, and my party is $20, that means the person I'm bringing has to be at least bring 70 people that wouldn't come to my party to pay for them, because I'm already going to have 400 people regardless.
Yeah.
So if I'm spending $1,500 on somebody, I got to say, are they going to bring 70 more people to pay for them?
Mm-hmm.
And it's really more than that, because remember, you got to go half and half with the venues that you're doing it with. So it really is, are they going to bring 100 more people that wasn't going to come anyway?
Mm-hmm.
If not, you can't bring them.
Yeah.
It just doesn't make economical sense. So that would be the advice that I would tell people. Think about how you're going to spend your money and why you're spending your money. But I would tell people to always go out and meet other people and always travel. One of the reasons why people came to Stuck on Salsa parties is because Kelvin and I traveled to North Carolina. We traveled to Atlanta, Philadelphia, New York. And so people reciprocate.
Yeah.
They said, hey, Earl and Kelvin always come up to our state. Let's go down to one of their parties. And that's how that works. You got to travel and meet people. You just can't stay at your party, don't go out of town, and expect out of town people to come. It doesn't go that way.
Yeah.
So that's what my advice would be to people.
Perfect, man. And Earl, again, I thank you so much for coming on tonight. And like I tell all of my guests, this is our first interview, but I definitely would love to have you on next year to catch up with you and just see how you've been and just to check up on any new projects you have. But again, tonight has been very special. I appreciate it. This honestly is advice. This is the game to all of the people who want to become promoters, for artists themselves to learn what promoters really do think. And also for you artists to understand, hey, take a level down and just understand that you have a privilege to be on this stage. It's people like Earl who are promoters that allow you to come to these events, but also you need to work with one another in order for things to go successfully. So, Earl, I appreciate you tonight. I know you're a busy man. So I thank you and I thank everyone in the audience. And definitely, Earl, after this interview, please check out all of the comments thus far that have been flooding in. Tanya, Jimmy, Roland, the list goes on. So tonight has been eventful. Definitely have a great weekend, and we'll definitely be talking soon.
Thank you, Diamond. You have a blessed weekend and good talking to you, man.
Absolutely. Thank you, everyone. Have a good night and stay safe.
All right. Night.
Night.